Hello, this is Sherwyn, and I'm making a video now involving my ranking of the MCU movies, of which there are between 45 and 50 so far, according to my counting, and generally a better standard of movie than the DCEU ones. They're more accessible, they're better made, the production values are higher. Um, they do suffer from two things. First of all, the overplaying of interconnectedness. And Spider-Man No Way Home is a prime example of this. It even connects up with movies by other companies. And I just find it, I'm not ranking it in my list. Uh, and the other thing that tends to be a major flaw is some of the movies are over comical or over humorous. It contradicts the adventure story, any sense of thrill or suspense. Um, but that's about it. There are some movies which are really drab. The Eternals is probably the worst one of all the MCU movies. It's a very dull film, and also the Captain Marvel film and the Ant-Man films seem to just be reiterations, kind of generic Marvel, if you like, exercising in being generic Marvel. Um, I find them rather uninspiring too. So I've come up with a list of 14 really good, really great movies. Um, but if you want to indulge in the interconnectedness, which hopefully won't spoil your enjoyment of these movies, it might be worth it watching the Infinity War and Endgame movies, which are very long films which are far too many characters in them. Nobody's personality is defined enough in them. You have to rely on memories of better movies from before in order to enjoy them. But the information will be there about the various aspects of interconnectedness that there is in the MCU Marvel movies generally. Now, the reason I've chosen 14 because I'm still thinking about the DCEU movies is that I ranked all the DCEU movies and I came up with four lame ones, namely Shazam Fury of the Gods, two versions of Batman v Superman, and the Justice League movie, which sometimes I'm in two minds about. The Justice League movie, it's a bit fun to watch. Sometimes I go. In fact, I've been back to it more than I thought I would. But apart from that, there are 14 good movies, some of them great at the top. Um, and so I've done the same with the Marvel movies. I've ranked 14 really good movies, great movies, and groundbreaking movies, because many of the DC films rely on the groundbreaking that Marvel have done past years, as well as their own success, as well as other successes with Batman and Superman prior to the DCEU beginning. So, first of all, my number 14 is Iron Man, which was the first MCU movie, um, starring Robert Downey Jr. as the Iron Man. And it is a great satirical story dealing with the arms race and the morality of manufacturing armaments and all sorts of political questions. But mainly, of course, he introduces this great character, the Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s playing Tony Stark's um, alter ego, the man in the iron suit. The action scenes are superb, as always throughout these movies. The action scenes are exceptional. much better than their counterparts in other firms that produce superhero movies. Um, so that's definitely a required watch, Iron Man, for all, perhaps even all fans of cinema in the first place, not just superhero buffs or Comic Con nerds. But the next one is the first Captain America film, another origin film. Captain America, the First Avenger, which is a Second World War story. Involves Chris Evans playing the titular hero. Could have been cheesy, could have been a platitude deliverer, peddling his American patriotism, but no, it was much better than that. There was a genuine attention to the source and even a critique of popular patriotism. And there's a more human story concerning Steve Rogers and his friend Bucky Barnes. Steve Rogers is transformed into this Superman, a super soldier, and one of the interconnected features is also at the centre of the story, this alien tesseract, the cube, which has immense power, being used by Hydra, the scientific wing of the Nazis, to produce weapons which ostensibly could lead to them winning the war. But there was too many fractions, I think, anyway, within the movement, at least in the world of the movie. The leader of Hydra, the Red Skull, had no respect whatsoever for Hitler and Nazism, and would have been hostile and contentious to them later. His hand was forced somewhat in this movie. But anyway, that's going on rather too long. Wonderful story. Most of the early ones are on my list are origin stories because I think that as time went on, with the same characters, the films got better and generally got better and better. So the next one is, of course, Thor. Thor, the great Norse god, given the superhero treatment as he had been back in the 60s by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Or was it Steve Ditko? It was Stan Lee anyway. There they had it, the real Superman, or the realer Superman than Kal-El from Krypton. The mythological Superman, akin to Hercules, of the Greek world, of the Greek cultural forms, as a modern day superhero. The attention to, by Kenneth Branagh, the producer, to the source material, Poetic Edda, and the stories of Thor is very very thoughtful, much more than the original comics were. And there's even the story of Thor losing his hammer included. In the original story, of course, Thor awoke to find that his hammer had been stolen, and with his divine power, he could see that it was being stolen by a giant, and he sent Loki to find out about it. And the plan was for Thor to get the hammer back. He had to pretend to be Freya, the goddess, who was a beautiful goddess. He had to dress up as a bride and offer himself to this giant for him to then return the hammer. But as soon as the hammer came into view, Thor snatched it up and killed the giant with it. And then, as he travelled back to Asgard, he also killed many of the giant's kin. Anyway, back to the movie. What was his name? Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth did a great job as Thor. There's some casting genius going on in the MCU, especially at the beginning. The perfect choice for Thor, Chris Hemsworth, Australian actor, and the humour, the friendly humour that you get in these movies, in the first place, in the other ones I've just mentioned, it's very good. It's enriching to the drama. It's just that sometimes it gets worse, it gets too bad. For example, in Thor: Love and Thunder, which I've not listed, on the one hand you've got Thor and the gods being rather silly. On the other hand, you've got a very human, tragic story of Christian Bale's character, the God Butcher, and the whole movie is just patchwork of chalk and cheese. Anyway, so number 12 is 4. And number 11 is a film which involves the origin story of Black Widow, name of the film, but it involves events following the breakup of the Avengers earlier in the MCU run over the Accords, which in which the secular powers, as it were, the governments of the world wish to limit the Avengers' activities and control them somewhat. Events after that, but also the Black Widow's early life is shown as a girl and a young woman and so on. And this is a very good movie. The James Bond felt she is a spy after all, and so the story is based to some extent on the James Bond stories, Ian Fleming stories, and Ray Winston plays a good part as the villain, and he's every bit like Ernst Stavro Blofeld or Goldfinger from the Bond movies, and she very much plays a part too. So that's another great one. There's some great special effects. In all these movies, there are great special effects, and they're very well executed. So that's a Black Widow, number 10. And number 9, I've got Iron Man 3, which is a very fast-moving story involving the extremists, a super-powered guy who was working on something connected with Tony Stark. But anyway, it's a good adventure story, and the Mandarin, one of the villains from the comic days, is in it. He turns out to be a fraud. He's being hired by the extremists to send these terrorist videos to the Americans and presumably to other states as well in the West. Turns out to be an English actor who has been hired to do this, which is quite a funny moment. There's some nice twists. Another thing in the storytelling in the MCU, there's some great twists. And of course, this is disappointing to some fans. I've read and I've heard people say that the Mandarin should have been a real villain. I think there was a story in the comics that I remember reading, in which the Mandarin turned out to be a robot, but whether that was the real Mandarin or just a Mandarin robot, I don't know. I forget. If I ever knew in the first place. Right, now the next one is Avengers Assemble. And a great many people put this at number 1, and it had a huge impact. And it's great, but there's a kind of simplicity to it, necessarily, at the time, which is slightly bland perhaps now in retrospect, compared to some films that have been made since. Excuse me a moment. Yes, so Avengers Assemble is a very significant movie and a really good movie. So the next one is Thor: The Dark World, and this is one that gets knocked by many reviewers. They don't like it. I love it. I think Christopher Eccleston's great as the Dark Elf, and it's a dark story, and there's some great science fiction in it. And again, as in the first Thor movie, you have Thor in commonplace situations, um, hanging his hammer up on a coat hook, for example. Uh, so, as well as the huge sci-fi fantasy scenario. Um, Loki's great. Tom Huddleston as Loki, of course, teams up with Thor in order to defeat these dark elves who've broken free of their ancient prison. Uh, Thor's mother gets killed, and Jane Foster, Thor's love interest, the Earth Lady, figures quite heavily in this movie. And so the emotions are right, and the drama's right, and recommended movie by me, certainly. Certainly 10 times better than the rather, I think, abortive Thor Love and Thunder story. Next one is the first MCU Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, starring Michael Keaton as the Vulture, a different Vulture from the comic book one. He has a kind of metal suit. A lot of the concepts and stories in these movies centre around Stark Industries, I've noticed. This metal suit had something to do with Stark. But anyway, great adventure story. Lovely story of Peter Parker and MJ again, like the Tobey Maguire films, which to my mind are the best Marvel movies of all time, so far anyway. And there may be a few at the top of my list that are that good too. But anyway, he defeats the Vulture. It's great to see him in an adventure with a slightly different Vulture. And his relationship with his friends, his high school guy with his friends, and of course, wonderful MJ. A different MJ altogether to Kirsten Dunst. What can I say? I think Spider-Man is just a wonderful character. He's the one of the few characters that Marvel has made that are as great, if you like, as DC's Batman and Superman. Yes, they've made him just as popular, and also Captain America has more recently become so popular. He should have been that in the first place, but he was regarded as a propaganda tool when he was first written. Right. The next one is Iron Man 2. This also gets knocked by critics and Marvel fans, but I love it. I love Whiplash. I think he's great. Black Widow is introduced in this, played by Scarlett Johansson. The character's name is Natasha Romanoff, the super spy. Like Captain America is a super soldier, she's a super spy, and she plays a good part. And there's some great Iron Man action with all the drones and War Machine. Randy is the sort of alternate Iron Man, the military guy that is an Iron Man in it as well. And so that's another great story. It's well paced. All these movies that I've chosen are very well paced action movies. Right, the next one is one of the really great ones for me, though it does have its drawbacks in slightly long scenes of the plodding nature. The the scenes where there's just dialogue among people. It's a great Black Lives Matter film, as was its predecessor, Black Panther, but I've not included that because I found that to be a bit generic attempt at, as it were, fillers of generic superhero adventure, even though it was a great Black Lives Matter film as well. This is also a great Black Lives Matter film. There's a wonderful female Black Panther, the Princess of Wakanda, and the really great character, one of my favourite Marvel characters ever. In fact, one of my greatest my favourite superhero characters, the Submariner. Namor the Submariner is introduced into the MCU here. A slightly different Submariner to the comics. He would have looked a bit ridiculous. He already looked ridiculous in the comics. A guy with swimming trunks on, who is also the King of Atlantis. Give me a break, really. Not much to write home about that, Ma. But anyway, this guy's a Latino character and actor, yeah. Hundreds of years old. He's not the King of Atlantis in this. I don't know, perhaps it was courtesy to the DC Aquaman, even though the Submariner character predates the invention of Aquaman. I think it's nice that Marvel don't just make their own King of Atlantis. He has another undersea kingdom which involved various Central American peoples retreating into the sea centuries ago. So the wonderful thing about this is the political situation with Wakanda, the death of the Queen at the hands of Namor, the beginnings of war between Wakanda and Namor's kingdom. But the great thing for me is the as well as all that is the action sequences with Namor. He flew through the air and fought with his super strength. It was just great. And also the female Black Panther was good. They end up making friends. The female Black Panther defeats him by keeping away from water, because Namor needs water to renew his strength and his powers too, and that's how she defeats him. But she doesn't kill him. She makes friends, and the two kingdoms strike up an alliance. Perhaps an uneasy alliance, but an alliance nonetheless. Right. So that's number 4. And these top 4 for me are the creme de la creme of MCU movies. And the next one is Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. What can I say about this? Multiverse, fantastic characters, other Marvel characters, and it's a bit like No Way Home, which, as I said before, I'm not including in my top 14. But it doesn't go too far with it. It involves Doctor Strange and a character called America, who has the power to travel between the multiverse, the parallel Earths of the multiverse. And the Black Widow, not the Black Widow, the Scarlet Witch, I nearly said Natasha Romanoff, one of the twins. She, what was her name? What were the twins' names? Forgot the twins' names. But anyway, she becomes an evil being because she pines for children of her own. She's seen that her parallel Earth doubles all have these 2 kids, and she pines for them, which is something one can relate to. It's one of those tragedies in life that one can understand. But she becomes an evil being, and but the transitions between one universe and another are somewhat humorous and somewhat dramatic, and very, very well filmed and well done. Special effects, absolutely superb. And the battle between the Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange, is just thrilling and engaging, and this is well worth a watch. And number 2, I've got Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, I could do with a drink. Excuse me a minute. Spider-Man Far From Home. Thrilling story, Mysterio, intrigue, kids on vacation in Europe, Spider-Man, and his concerns about his secret identity being exposed, all sorts of twists and turns. His girlfriend already knowing that he's Spider-Man, or she's guessed, doesn't seem surprised. Oh, by the way, the Scarlet Witch's name was Wanda Maximoff. Right, I just remembered that. The characters are handled really well. The action's great, special effects great, great twist with Mysterio in the story. Great action sequences in London, especially good, and other action sequences, because of course Mysterio has this power to create illusions, and he's a really super. I think it's probably the best special effects movie of the MCU, perhaps even the best special effects movie of all time. I don't know, but that's it. Number 2, but number 1 got to be most men's favourites. I don't know whether it's most women's favourites as well. It probably is, because it has the extremely handsome Chris Evans in it, and the extremely beautiful Natasha Romanoff, or rather, should I say, Scarlett Johansson in it, and it's a great action thriller. It's a great spy thriller. It's a great human story, and it is, of course, and it involves all sorts of moral issues. It is, of course, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And what can I say about this film without spoiling? Every scene's a gem. The interplay between Captain America, or Steve Rogers, and Natasha, or Black Widow, and also the Winter Soldier, who turns out to be Bucky Barnes, who's been conditioned and experimented upon since the war by the remnants of Hydra who have been in hiding within S.H.I.E.L.D. Captain America has to bring S.H.I.E.L.D. down. I hope that's not too much a spoiler, but it's just a huge, huge story, and I think, if anything, it's the best Marvel film ever. It's the best, for me, MCU film, yes, but perhaps it's even better than the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, decades earlier, of course. And so that's it. That's my ranking of the MCU movies. Cheating a little, because I didn't want to do 48 movies in a video, and I think I spent long enough on the ones I've got. So let's see now. I shall read out the list again. Number 1, Captain America: Winter Soldier. Number 2, Spider-Man: Far From Home. Number 3, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Number 4, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Number 5, Iron Man 2. Number 6, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Number 7, Thor: The Dark World. Number 8, Avengers Assemble. Number 9, Iron Man 3. Number 10, Doctor Strange. I don't think I mentioned Doctor Strange. Did I mention Doctor Strange? I think I omitted Doctor Strange. Great origin story, great special effects, wonderful new world of mysticism and magic, and a great human story of the surgeon, Stephen Strange, who travels in the East to try and find a cure for a debilitating condition, and ends up becoming this super mystic, a super sorcerer. That's a Doctor Strange movie. So, I'll start from the beginning again. Number 1, Captain America Winter Soldier. 2, Spider-Man Far From Home. 3, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. 4, Black Panther Wakanda Forever. 5, Iron Man 2. 6, Spider-Man Homecoming. 7, Thor The Dark World. 8, Avengers Assemble. 9, Iron Man 3. 10, Doctor Strange. 11, Black Widow. 12, Thor. 13, Captain America the First Avenger. And 14, Iron Man. Okay. So that is my ranking of MCU. Partly to go with my ranking of the DCEU. DC has been more my focus of attention in recent times. More interest. Marvel just keep churning out the great ones, don't they? Gets less interesting over a while, perhaps. Anyway, this is Sherwyn saying bye-bye, good night, and God bless.